Konnichiwa, minasan! For Japan lovers like myself, there are so many areas that one could study, from broad, well-known areas to niche interest groups. Today I'm going to talk to you about springtime traditions in Japan with a special focus on Ohanami, investigating its past and examining its future. There's so much to discuss, so let's jump right in. So I'm going to talk about some major holidays and festivals in Japan during the springtime. The first one is Haru Matsuri, which takes place February 2nd to February 4th. It encompasses Setsubun and Rishun. Setsubun just means the day before a new season. Usually, however, this word is used to refer to the spring Setsubun, the last day of winter, which is on February 3rd. Setsubun is also called Bean Throwing Day because many people throw roasted beans to ward off evil. They chant for demons to leave and summon good luck. Some people believe in kind demons, helpful yokai, and they invite the demons in. It is considered a sigil of good health to eat the same number of beans as your age on Setsubun. Rishun is the first day of the solar term. It's the first of the 24 solar terms in traditional Chinese calendar. The second holiday is Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day in Japan is quite different from Valentine's Day in the United States. In Japan, Valentine's Day is a day for a woman to give chocolate to their male family, friends, and their love interest. There are two kinds of chocolate which are given out. Ginri choco, which means obligation chocolates, and those are given to coworkers. And there are then honmei choco, which are favorite chocolates, and they're given to your partner or the person who you have a crush on. The third holiday is Hinamatsuri, which is March 3rd. This is also called Girls' Day or Dolls' Day, and it's a day when families pray for their daughters' health and well-being. They display Hina dolls dressed as courtiers. A Hinamatsuri dish which is eaten on Hinamatsuri is Hishimochi. The shape is believed to be a symbol of fertility originating from the Edo period. The colors are red for ume blossoms, white for the cleansing effects of snow, and green for restoration. The fourth holiday is White Day, March 14th. This is the converse to Valentine's Day in Japan. White Day is when men return the favor of the gifts they received on Valentine's Day. Where Valentine's Day, basically only chocolate is given, on White Day not just chocolate, but candy, cookies, and sometimes jewelry, scarves, and handkerchiefs are given. Gifts vary a lot more on White Day. Returning the gift on Valentine's Day is important social function, so many men give gifts more expensive than the gift they received. The gifts used to be white, but that's less important to people nowadays. The candies given have meanings that are relative to place, person, and generation. Some Japanese people are unaware that they have meanings at all. So, the supposed meaning shouldn't be taken too seriously. Marshmallows used to be considered good meaning. Marshmallow-covered chocolate was a symbol that a girl's feelings were being reciprocated. But marshmallows evolved to being a symbol of dislike, as marshmallows dissolve and melt. They're not long-lasting. Nowadays, most of the time, their soft nature often signifies a desire for friendship. So receiving marshmallows on White Day is a symbol of a desire for mere friendship. Cookies are also the friend zone. They're dry and crunchy and represent a desire for a casual or dry relationship, like a friendship. hard candy or white chocolate is an expression of affection. It's something you hold in your mouth and enjoy for a long period of time, and it's something you'd give to somebody who you truly admire or love. The day to pray for daughters is in March, and the day to pray for sons is in May. Kodomo no Hi is May 5th. It's also called Children's Day or Tango no Seku. Families pray for sons' health, strength, and bravery. Many decorations on this day are carp because carp are symbols of strength due to the fact that they jump from the water into waterfalls using their powerful muscles. The houses are decorated with samurai armor and warrior dolls, and they eat rice cooked in bamboo leaves and red bean paste onigiri. Taking a bath in iris leaves wards off illness, and therefore the day is also called Shogu no Seku, or the Iris Festival. Now it's time to talk about Ohanami, the flower viewing festival. This takes place late March to early April. Hanami means flower viewing, and in modern times the hana refers to sakura blossoms. Sakura are the national flower of Japan. Let's talk about some Ohanami history. In the Nara period, AD 910 to 974, Ohanami was enjoyed by aristocrats. Back in those days, hana did not refer to sakura blossoms, but ume blossoms, Chinese plum trees. Ume are less well known than sakura, but equally beautiful flowers and have their own festivals to this day. They bloom very early, February to March, while there's still snow, and they're considered a harbinger of spring. They have many color variants and petal number variations. Many ume have 5 petals, but some have many more. They come in colors green, white, shades of pink, and red blooms. There are over 300 types of ume. 3 notable ones are yabai, which are closest to the wild type. They have thin, dense branches and usually white or pink blushed blooms, and the leaves have soft, fine hairs. Kubai are a type of hibai and are usually red and have red wood. Bongo get sick very easily, and they can't self-reproduce, but they're very cold resistant. The best places to view ume blossoms are Nihon Sanmeien, the 3 great gardens, Kenrokuen in Kanazawa Ishikawa Prefecture, Korakuen, Okayama Prefecture, and Kairakuen, Mito, Ibaraki Prefecture. Mito no Ume Matsuri is one of eastern Japan's biggest festivals, and the Team Lab Light Festival occurs for 2 weeks during that festival, putting on a light display in Kairakuen Garden. In the Heian period, AD 794 to 1185, the hana in Ohanami began to change from referring to ume to sakura, as the popularity of sakura overtook ume. A civil war in China caused the Tang dynasty to lose power, and China stopped trading with Japan. With the halt of the ume imports from China, sakura gradually became more popular. Ohanami during this time period was enjoyed by aristocrats, and Kyoto became the capital of Japan, and the samurai rose to power. Ohanami was also enjoyed by peasants at this time. They believed the god of rice fields would come down from the mountains and live in the sakura trees, the blooms signifying the end of winter. They would adjust how they planted their crops based on how the trees bloomed. And so for them, Hanami was a ritualistic function. It was a prayer to the gods for a good harvest. Sakura, like Ume, have many color and petal variations. There are over 200 types of sakuras. They come in yellow, green, white, and shades of pink, all the same colors as Ume blossoms, except for red. The three most common types of sakura are Some Yoshino, Yamazakura, and Shindarezakura. Some early blooming kinds of sakura, are Kanzakura, which bloom late February to mid-March, Kawazuzakura, which bloom mid-March, and Kanhizakura, which bloom mid to late March. Late blooming sakura are Ichio, which bloom mid-April, Ukon, mid-April, Kanzan, mid to late April, Fugenzo, mid to late April, Shogetsu, mid to late April, Kikuzakura, late April to early May, and Jugatsu sakura, which is an October to January and spring blooming sakura. Very, very late for sakura. That one's a real outlier. Some of you may be confused as to the difference between Ume and Sakura. They are both beautiful spring blooming trees that bloom around the same time. Both of them are in bloom in March. I was confused as well, but let me tell you some ways to distinguish between them. One way is to look at the bark. Ume bark tends to be dark gray with slight striations, while Sakura bark is lighter and is more striated. The bud is another way to tell them apart. Ume buds are very round, while Sakura buds tend to taper. The petals, while similar in color, are also one of the key ways to tell their differences. Ume petals have rounded tips, and the overall shape of the flower tends to be very circular. But Sakura petals have a characteristic indentation at the tip of the petal, and the flowers of the Sakura tree tend to be more star-shaped. While the petal coloring is very similar in the two flowers, Ume can be red while Sakura are never red. A fourth way to tell the difference is the scent. However, you would have to be there in person in order to use that method. During the Kamakura period, AD 1185 to 1333, sakura were enjoyed by the samurai. Samurai rule began in the 12th century, starting at the end of the Heian period. The Kamakura period was an era of the first shogunate. Minamoto Yoritomo was appointed shogun on August 21, 1192, and established the shogunate, a system of military rule that lasted until the 19th century. However, in 1333, due to the aftermath of the Mongolian invasion and political unrest, the Kamakura shogunate fell and the Ashikaga shogunate rose to power. Sakura trees began to be planted in the mountains and temples. Ohanami was enjoyed by the samurai in the Sengoku period, AD 1467 to 1615. The Sengoku period was an era of war, violence, and anarchy, with many warlords battling over territory and fighting for power. The conflict was ended by the three unifiers, Oda Nobunaga and his two successors Toyotomi Hideyoshi and Tokugawa Ieyasu. Hideyoshi-sama hosted two Hanami festivals, Hanami of Yoshino, which had 5,000 participants and 1,000 sakura trees replanted from Osaka, and Hanami of Daigo, which had 1,300 participants and 700 sakura trees. The Edo period, AD 1603 to 1868, was an era of peace after a long civil war. Hanami became an annual event enjoyed by common folk as well as aristocrats. Breeding sakura became popular, resulting in hundreds of new types of sakura trees, including the current most common kind, Someyoshi no. It was also during this era that Tokugawa Nariaki, lord of the Mito region, built Kairakuen, where people go to view Ume nowadays. So we've talked about the botany and history of sakura, but why do they matter? Why has Ohanami been such a celebrated event for centuries? Let's talk about the importance of sakura to people, especially the Japanese. The first reason that they're so important is their beauty. This needs no further explanation. These blooms are absolutely stunning to look at, especially when all the trees viewed together make a sea of pink. The second reason is the time of year they bloom. The time of year is significant because it signifies the end of the cold winter and the beginning of warm, lively spring. The time also matters because this was the time in the past when farmers planted crops, and much hope and expectation was put on the trees. Their blooming has come to symbolize the blooming of hopes and dreams. Finally, the time is significant because they bloom at the same time as the beginning of new terms for schools and workplaces in Japan. So sakura have also come to represent new beginnings for the Japanese people. The third reason why sakura are so important is because they are symbols of life and death. The lifespan of the sakura tree is very long, but the blooms wither quickly. This reflects the fragility of life. It's connected to beliefs from Buddhism and Shintoism that a thing is more beautiful because it has an end. As I mentioned, the sakura trees have a very long lifespan. The Sandai Sakura, or the three great sakura trees, are national monuments in Japan. The first is Miharu Takizakura, which is 1,000 years old. It is a weeping higan cherry tree, located in Miharu City, Fukushima Prefecture. It's named for its flowing branches, creating a waterfall effect. The second is Yamataka or Yamadaka Jinzai Sakura. This is an 1,800 to 2,000-year-old cherry tree. It is an Edo higan cherry tree, and it is the oldest sakura tree in Japan and probably the whole world. It's located in Jiso Temple, Hokuto City, Yamanashi Prefecture, and this tree has a rich history. It was supposedly planted by Yamato Takeru, the prince of Yamato dynasty, near the end of the 1st century AD. His heroic deeds are documented in Japan's two oldest history books, but their authenticity is questioned. 12 centuries later, the tree became ill, and a Buddhist priest named Nichiren healed it with a blessing. Jisoji, the temple beside Jindai Sakura, is dedicated to Mahayana Buddhism, the kind of Buddhism that Nichiren practiced. Some even believe Nichiren to be a reincarnation of Siddhartha Gautama, the original Buddha. In 1922, it was the first natural monument to be recognized by the Japanese government. Many years ago, a snowstorm knocked down one of its large branches, and over 1,000 rings in the branch alone were counted. Around 50 years ago, the trunk was hollowed out and gnarled by a bolt of lightning, but this did not undermine the tree's popularity in the slightest. Many people still visited, and the weight of the visitors compacted the soil around the tree over time, and it was in danger of dying. But it was again rescued by a Buddhist priest. In 2003, Jikiju Matsunaga, the 31st head priest of Jisoji, oversaw a gardener to dig out the compacted earth and replace it with rich, fertile soil, and a fence was installed to keep visitors at a safe distance. Despite its long and difficult past, Jindai Sakura blooms beautifully every spring. It was named for its age, living since ancient times. The third of the Sandai Sakura is the Neodani or Suzumi Sakura. It is 1500 years old, and it is also an Edohigan cherry tree. It's located in the Nio Valley near Gifu City in Gifu Prefecture. It's known for changing colors in its lifetime. It turns white when it's in full bloom, but the petals shrivel to thin and black when they die. And this is what it's named for. Usu, meaning light and thin, and Sumi, meaning ink. Now we've discussed Ohanami's past. Let's talk about its present. How do nihonjin celebrate Ohanami? Many nihonjin celebrate by laying a blanket on the ground and having a picnic under the beautiful pink canopy. Many konbini sell hanami bento and sweets. Marketers love to make hanami-themed versions of their products. Hanami dango, also called sanshoku or tricolored dango, are the same colors as hishi mochi enjoyed in Hinamatsuri. The pink represents the blooming sakura flowers, the white represents the melting snow, and the green represents new growth. I made some sanshoku dango myself over winter break using a mix I bought at a konbini here in the US, but they didn't turn out well. I hope to try some packaged ones later this month. Another hanami treat is Sakura Mochi. There's a variety of other hanami-themed snacks. Almost every snack brands itself hanami, the way that we do in the US around Christmas time with many brands. There are hanami Kit Kats, Pocky, tea, Coke, and sake. And Starbucks also releases new hanami-themed drinks as well. As a kid, my family and my neighbors always had magnolias in our yard. Magnolia is another pink and white bloom. I always admired their beauty, but especially as I got older and fell in love with Sakura, I would look up at the pinky canopy and pretend that it was Sakura. But earlier this month, my family purchased a small weeping Sakura and planted it in our front yard. It hasn't bloomed yet, I think because of the stress of the transplantation, but I hope to see some truly beautiful blooms from it in future years. Thank you so much for watching this video. There was so much research to be done, but I truly enjoyed every minute of it, learning about springtime traditions in Japan, and I hope you enjoy learning just as much as I did. ありがとうございます。さよなら。